One second.
Okay, call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Greater Costa Rica Beach and Park District on August 15th. Commissioner Ernst,
Here.
Commissioner Engel,
Here.
Commissioner Rollins,
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsong, here, Commissioner Wright, here. Okay, any changes to the agenda? No. Public request.
Oh, no. Push the button.
Jackie Gisman, 6250 Northwest 4th Avenue, Boca Raton, Florida 33487. I would like to petition a few more minutes for next meeting. I didn't know that this had to be done ahead of time, so I brought off my presentation, but I didn't know. I thought I could do it right now. But I learned right now that I have to petition it until for next meeting, so I'm asking next meeting that I can give a small presentation. It's gonna be maybe 5 minutes or less, but just in case that I go beyond the time, I would like to petition a couple more minutes for next meeting.
What's the presentation on?
About the lake and precaution matters, safety measurements.
And are you looking for back and forth with the board, or you just want to make a presentation, or?
I just want to make a presentation. I didn't know that I had to bring it in a USB. I didn't know. So.
So maybe, what does the board think?
Sure.
During public comment, 5 minutes?
Well, I think you have to follow whatever Jake says for normal protocol, because if you let anyone come in and talk about public safety and stuff, it's the public forum, and I think it needs to be related to the topic that we address. And, you know, you should look at it ahead of time, or someone should review it. Not offensive, no offensive what you're doing, but it's just the normal. It sounds right.
Well, why don't you send me your presentation and we'll take a look at it, and then we'll see if it fits on the agenda for the next meeting. I know you want to make it before Mill Lake presents, but the board can have a chance to review it and add it to the agenda at that point. Does that work?
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good. As I said, yeah, I don't think it's gonna take more than 5 minutes, just in case, if it's approved.
Okay.
I probably do it in 5 minutes,
Okay.
but I'll email it to you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Harold Chappie, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue, Boca Raton. I know they're gonna have a Miller Lake meeting, I think sometime in September. But what does it consist of? They're gonna make another presentation? Is this gonna be the final plan? What is it?
Well, this is the next rendering of the master plan. It's not a final plan. It's another, it's where they take all the feedback that was given to them from the first presentation and incorporate that into a revised plan. for the
Is
project.
this gonna be a public forum, like in here, or
It'll be a presentation here.
here or someplace else, or?
We planned on it here. We could certainly move it to a larger facility if you think you're gonna have other come out.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Chappie, I just want to thank you also for plugging Ocean Strand. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Anybody else?
I liked it most of the time.
Well, thank you, Barbara.
Thank you as well.
Okay, we're all set then? Public comment? We'll close that. We'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on August 1st. Move to approve.
Second.
Joanne? Commissioners?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsong? Yes. Commissioner Wright? Yes. Motion passes. Okay, regular business. First on the agenda is the employee health care. Yeah. Commissioners, on page 5 of your agenda packets is an overview of our current healthcare plan. Just looking for approval tonight to sign off on this renewal in the amount of $42,184.12.
I'll make the motion to recommend we accept the proposed renewal.
Second.
Any discussion? Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, discussion.
I said second.
Second, right? Any discussion on it? Nope. Joanne? Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Evil?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel? Yes. Commissioner Wright? Yes, motion passed. Okay, number two, the budget discussion. Brianne? Commissioners, on page 6 of your agenda packets is an overview of our budget as it's been discussed in the last couple of meetings. It includes all the CIP that we talked about, the city's projects, city manager CIP, as well as district manager CIP. You can see we plugged in some of the other items that we haven't discussed necessarily yet, like the regular CRA charges and all those things are listed here on this page 6. So this is our final chance at our next meeting as it adjourns. We're going to have our first public hearing with the tentative proposed millage rate. So we want to take a chance tonight to go through this. This is your last chance to make any changes so that we can get a presentation ready for the budget hearing. So I'm here to answer any questions, talk about the projects and make any changes at this point. Yeah, Susan, want to go first?
Since we don't know, how many of our residents are using the roller rink and the 1.5 million has been entered into the budget to place a cover over that, would it not be more community minded if we took that 1.5 million and put it toward the tower instead of doing a cover for the roller rink? Wouldn't more residents benefit from that? What do you all think?
Well, looking at the budget, like we already have the 2.6 budgeted for the tower in there. And we all know that we're gonna need shade structures over, we might do, who knows what we're gonna put shade structures over. But maybe if we put that, change it to just shade structures, who knows, we might end up putting shade structure over pickleball or something like that. Because we already have the 2.6 budgeted for the tower, which we can discuss. But would it be okay to like change it to general like shade structure?
I would prefer that because I think that there are so many other sports that so many more of our community members are using, and not saying that we can't do that at some future point over the roller hockey rink, but like you say, the pickleball is coming and it's going to need some shade. Some of the rectangles could probably use some type of shade for the over the benches for the kids. So I definitely think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and they're also we're looking at whether that might be a better location for a second field house too. So who knows? I don't think investing in a cover for the roller hockey rink is, for me, 1.5 million is a lot of money to put towards that right now when we don't know. I mean, there's not a lot of people that use that roller hockey rink, and we don't know exactly how many taxpayer people are actually using it. So I would prefer to rename it like shade structure allocation or something. Yeah.
So I guess, Brianne did send out a notice of who uses it, so there's information on the users. We don't know if they're residents or not, that's a different issue, but I think the general theme is the same. I think we're all in agreement shade structures is what we really want to do. And I am fully supportive of looking for shade, and we need to add shade structures across our, whether it's basketball courts or not. And the original concept of the roller hockey rink was kind of a combo, maybe that's not the right location, was to use it, have additional basketball hoops drop down, building a structure that would be multi-use. Not sure if that's right. So I totally agree with the idea of should it go somewhere else? So be it. But I was thinking even maybe increasing that from the 1.5, and I don't know where we have the budget room or not. It might be worthy to make it larger so that we cover more areas and be flexible with whatever it is for our overall budget. So something to think about. You know, and I also at some point want to talk about the park security and allocating some funds for that, just to have it there, whatever that might be. And I don't know if now is the right time to talk about it or later, but I think shade structures, whether it's at a basketball court, anywhere where it's at, is gonna be a must have. And we need to start building towards it. So I'm fine with moving, the suggestion is to rename it from roller hockey rink to shade structure. Evaluation, and then we just prioritize and see, the first one is just kind of experiments, the way I see it.
Well, I mean, I think you need to look at our parks and see where the best use of shade structures would be, you know? So that's something we can talk about. in the future.
The only reason it came up is I went out there and I saw the players and they were complaining about the heat, the sun, and asked, why don't we have our shades back over at least the areas that they sit at, which had been removed for years, I guess, and at least since Irma. Maybe there are other locations, smaller ones, that's fine. Definitely supportive of, we're building up this pickleball thing, that needs to be covered. You know, I said, Raul sent me some pictures of places elsewhere immediately after that, and that made a lot of sense to me. So, but wherever that might be. Okay.
I agree with the change in nomenclature. I think, yeah, we should have, be able to have the flexibility to use money for shade structures wherever that might be on our properties. But something else that I noticed, on the CRA expense, on the lower millage rate, the expense is higher. On the 1.05, the expense is higher than it is on the 1.08. Shouldn't it be the other way around?
What page are you on?
6.
Yeah, those are inverted, yes. No, no, sorry, it's $100,000 difference, it's 2249 with the 1.05 rate, it's 23135 with the 1.08 rate.
Okay,
So it increases.
so it's not bad eyesight.
Getting my eyesight mixed up.
Here, I'll just chime in on the cover issue, you know, I've been standing out in the sun here in our parks, on the sidelines for many years, wishing for cover. And I think, you know, shade for participants is just as important as for those that recreate. I would agree that we could just redesignate that as Susie proposed, and I think that where I would look for cover initially might be with the pickleball court, because I think that's I think those folks, we get a lot more activity, and also that might be another source of some revenue too over there, which I think would be helpful to help, you know, cover some of the cost of providing that cover. So I would support that movement, and I don't know whether we need to increase that amount or not. If we got into something, we could always amend the budget, you know, from the reserves if we needed to make that adjustment. But I'm fine with it, the amount, and just redesignating it. Thank you.
Okay. I missed the last meeting did you guys discuss the tower at all at the last meeting? It was left in the budget. It's left in the budget.
Yeah, I think it was purposely left in the budget. I think we were all, you know, in favor of moving forward with that hearing at the time, but I don't know that we took a vote on it. I think it was just the comments that we made around the dais that we were in favor of that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, after looking at, we did, Brandon and I looked at the Pinellas County from 2018, where they built a structure similar to this tower, and that was 1.7 million, and that was 2018. So I've kind of readjusted my thought on it, but as long as the city will agree to adjust the bid requirements a little bit when they do put it out to bid in the fall, hopefully they said that would be the best time to rebid it. And then And then we'll just have to do a new agreement with the coastal stewards, I guess, for the donation. But I just wanted to say that, yes, I'm in favor of keeping it in the budget as well.
I just want to add that, I'm very conscious, yeah, I appreciate the support for the tower and the concept of it. But I think we primarily started with leave it in the budget, so the city would not look at it unless it was left in the budget at the amount. So we said, okay, we'll leave it in the amount, but our hope is two things. Okay, one, they choose a good time to rebid it and it comes in much lower or lower. I don't know what that number is. And number two, we never, came back to our friends, the coastal stewards, and asked them for additional donation to it, or what are they going to do? But we can keep the project in motion. And we still have a decision point on things. So that was the thought process.
Right, and discussing it further with the city to make sure that they adjust the bid requirements so that hopefully we get more bidders.
Right.
And that it's done at a good time. I think they said the fall was ideal time to do it. And then we can talk to the coastal stewards again, about additional funding that they could possibly raise for it too. Yes,
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the discussion we had or the response that we got from the coastal stewards was that they need a target number to be able to fundraise against. So a bid would have to be received, so they would know if we have 2.6 million in the budget, and let's just say the bid came in at 2.9, that they would be able to fundraise the 300,000. That would be their target. That they said they couldn't just go out with an open-ended fundraising request. So I think that's where we stand right now.
Yeah, and Steve's exactly right. They were pretty clear about that. But the 2 point, I'm good if it comes in at 2.6. I'd love to see it come in lower than that, but I think it's a project that's the community supports, and I think that it's time we knuckle down and try real hard to get this thing done completely, so we can take this off our spreadsheet. But I do hope that we can improve on that number, but certainly I think the coastal stewards, provided we come up with a good hard number, I think will probably be able to help us out.
okay. Any further discussion on the?
Well, 2 items, I'm sorry to bring it on you and everything. Number one, if we can either touch base on park security and managers or the commissioner comments, but I do have feedback on that, but it does affect the budget.
Yeah, I'll update you that.
So should I talk about that now, Brianne? or-
Yeah, I can give you an update on where we are with it, and then if you want to chime in on what.
Okay, sure.
So Melissa met with 2 officers from the local PD and Greg Stevens and Alex Keller from Rec Services. Immediately, they're going to implement some additional signage at the park and also trim the trees back to make sure the lighting is not obstructed in any way in the parking lots. Those are just immediate fixes. The PD is going to put together a couple of options as far as adding additional cameras to the park. And I don't want to necessarily get into the details of where we have them and what we don't, and Jacob can weigh in on a discussion point for that. But obviously those things would cost money to implement and tie into the security that's out there. So that's something that's not in the current budget if we wanted to add that. And this is just talking about Sugar Sand. They're gonna, Paul is working on scheduling walkthroughs for Patch Reef, Sugar Sand, Department Park. This particular facility has not been a big target, but it's off of St. Andrews. It's very visible from the road, so that's helpful too. But we'll also have this facility evaluated too, not just for the user safety, but also employee safety and things that happen with cash handling and things like that. So that's all in the works, but as we want to add these things, that will be extra money in our budget.
So,
And just real quick, I'm just gonna have Jacob wait before I don't want to get into details of where cameras are and how that's placed. There's an option for us to discuss that.
And just one other follow-up, thank you, Brianne. Following the last meeting where this topic came up, Brianne and I had a discussion and wanted to bring something to the board's attention. There is a mechanism under state law in chapter 281 that allows a collegial body such as ours to meet in a closed door session to discuss the security and fire safety systems of any property that's owned or leased by the state or any of its political subdivisions. I'm not suggesting this is a conversation that needs to happen imminently, but at some point in the upcoming fiscal year, when some of these additional steps are in place, it may be prudent to work with Brianne, work with our partners at the city and the police department in particular, to assess all of the security systems and functions in our various buildings, at our various parks. And when the time is right, Brianne and her team will be able to make a presentation to the board in a closed door setting. Again, it's limited, the content that could be discussed in that session, but there is a mechanism that allows us to meet outside of the public, exempt from the sunshine law, to discuss specifically the security and fire safety systems relating to public buildings, public facilities, and all the public parks that we do own. But I'll be aware that it is an option for us at some point in the upcoming year to continue that discussion in a more detailed and refined setting.
That's good to know. Just a couple thoughts, and Aaron, I don't know if you had a chance to look back at the meetings, but that same group of roller hockey people, appropriately reached out and said they had a rash of break-ins. And so there is some concern because that's not the first time I heard that. And so, at the time that I went back to our meeting, I didn't have any feedback, but I got feedback from Captain Lynn, I think it was, and I was very impressed with the city of Boca's, response. I'm most interested in data and statistics. Is this really a growing trend or not? They have phenomenal data. You overwhelm me with data of what they have from prior years and what they're doing. Does that mean there's opportunity? Clearly, they were very successful in catching one of the two that they thought were who committed the crimes, and the other one they had a good lead on. But are there additional things they can do? And after hearing about the parents from Calusa and the complaints they had about the school to the school district about the opening of Calusa compared to Blue Lake and the security, it just another kind of concern came about that are we doing the very best we can do for park security, and should we do a little bit more on the park security? And I know Sugar Sam because it's next to my house. I know the access points of it are pretty easy along Camino Real, and they're open all night. So it is kind of if you're going there for, Little League Baseball or for roller hockey, you don't want this to be a negative event, or if you're going there on a weekday or something. But this happens to more often than not where someone leaves their stuff in their car and it gets broken into, and it's unfortunate. It's a bad experience for everyone. But I was just thinking that maybe we should take another step on the security in conjunction with the police. And part of it is they know what they know, but is there an expert in park security that we should be really looking at? Should we look at the fences? Should we do more all around the board on these things? I don't know. But I would think that it would be something that maybe either through Brianne or Alyssa with context to use a third party evaluating the security in conjunction with the Boca Police and see what we can do together to really make our parks, leaders in security, and focus on one park, but then move forward on other parks where we can and work together with the city on. So that's the thought.
Who wants to go first? Kate?
Yeah, I'm younger than him, so.
No, you're not.
Oh, you're.
He definitely is younger than I am.
A thought that I had in conjunction with what Craig said, maybe we should conduct a security audit of all our properties and get a report back so that we know what we're dealing with at all our properties, rather than just focus on one. I was in Sugar Sam the other day, and everything seemed to be okay, but then, I was there for maybe an hour or so. So I didn't get the complete picture, so to speak. But I think the safety and security of the people that use our facilities should be paramount for us. And maybe it'd be a great idea to have a third party come in and work with the Boca PD and come up with a comprehensive report. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? and what else we can do to enhance the security of our facility.
Sorry, I didn't include this, but Paul is coordinating meetings for the Boca PD to tour the facility with Melissa and him. And they're gonna put together reports on all of our parks, not just Sugar Sand. We're gonna do actually the Dorman Park as well, this facility, and address not just public safety, but employee safety and all those things.
Right.
Yeah.
If we do an independent security company, we have to go out for an RFP for that.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess my question is twofold. One, are we concerned about people leaving property in their vehicles? Or are we concerned about patrons in our park from a liability standpoint? Because there's two different issues. I don't know, I haven't seen the data that Craig's had with the Boca PD, but you know, people are gonna do things that are not very smart. My wife was one of those who ignored the sign that she parked right in front of another person's car. So I have firsthand experience with that, but it didn't ruin my day. But I do think that, you know, there are areas that probably should be watched more, and I'm in the parks a good bit. And I'm hesitating to make this statement because of the misconstrued about the depth of it, but the last time I was there, my wife and I were walking park around the lake and everything, and there's if you can find a park ranger, I challenge you to find a park ranger some days that are out there, and if you find them, as I did that case, they were in an area where there was no activity going on, and they were facing away from where the activity was taking place. And I'm sure that probably was an isolated incident, but I think that having presence in the area that we're having issues with, if it's break-ins, that would certainly go some ways to eliminate some of the discussion that we're having. I'm not saying we should not do an analysis, but I want to work with Boca PD on that, because I don't think anybody has any better idea about what goes on in our parks than what they do in areas that are of concern. I don't think you're going to eliminate somebody leaving the purse underneath the seat of the car. It's just going to happen. I'm probably more concerned about the safety of our patrons than I am, you know, somebody's purse being stolen. Because you know, in this environment here, I want to see some more presence of our park rangers in the park. And I think that if we have to pay a little bit more to do that, I think that would be helpful. But I do want to follow through with Boca PD on the rest of our facilities and then have a comprehensive conversation about that. I have no problem in allocating funds to that to protect our patrons, both from a personal belonging standpoint as well as liabilities. I've been going to these parks, and I know these are different times, but I think that they're generally pretty secure. Where they're not secure is in the evening, and where the security breakdown might be in areas where it's parking that's being unobserved by the park rangers. And maybe just a request to the city that they control a little more. They have the golf carts that they can get around in and raise a flag more often. So that you know, I don't know if there's anytime there's people in the park, whether there's a handful or whether there's a group of folks. I think that the parking lot's an area that needs to be under close observation by the rangers. And I would ask that pass that message along to Greg if he's not listening in. This is not a complaint, but just an observation that I wish that they would, have a little more eyes on what's happening in the park.
Yeah, I think, so number one, on the Calusa aspect, my child goes there, so I'm well aware of the issues. And we've met with the chief of police. And there was some, adjustments that have been made, but it's not built like the new schools that are built now. Absolutely. But we also don't want it to be a jail for the kids at the same time. So we don't want barbed wire on the fence. But in terms of the park, I've been playing on these parks since I was 6 years old. I find them very safe. I have never been scared in any of our parks. I'm well aware of the signs, and I got numerous times I've gotten out of my car to go for a run or a walk, and I'm like, oh, there's the sign, I gotta grab my stuff, I'm not gonna leave it in the car. So I think that's partly personal responsibility also, that people have to be aware that if they're leaving their stuff in the car, they're leaving their stuff in their car. It's not a smart thing to do, on the one hand, but on the other hand, I think that working closely with both PD and the park rangers is a great idea, to have more communication with them and possibly have a meeting with them as well. I'm not really sure of hiring a third party, for me, that I don't think that's a great idea at this point in time. I think working closely with our PD would be the best option right now. Like Bob said, they're the ones who know our parks the best, and the areas surrounding them. So that would be my option, is to take that step first, have them do an audit of the parks, have discussions with them, see where we can improve, and then go from there. But, that would be my opinion on that.
Just a follow-up, a couple things. Number one, Steve's suggestion for the Boca Police, I intentionally would rather us stay out of police and some of the data. I mean, it's good to know the data, but on the other hand, you don't want to, because I think they know what they're doing. And so they have to keep track of that data with the taxing authority, so we need to provide resources and funding. I agree with the park ranger visible presence, and you could argue, should the park rangers be taking more direction from the police, because they are kind of an arm of things to help on it. Just a thought out there, but I think coordination is important for visible presence. So when you see the Explorer riding around as a park ranger, you never know if it's a police car coming at you or a park ranger car coming at you. It doesn't matter, it's visible presence, and I think it's important.
Actually, Greg Stevens is listening in on this, and he just let me know that he's gonna talk to the Rangers and also coordinate with PD, just exactly what you were saying, so.
Perfect.
He's on it.
So, but the reason I would say, don't leave it off the radar of getting a third party RFP, because it helps stimulate a different discussion that we don't know and they don't know. So I don't understand how the school district does their security, but they have very specific design when they did Blue Lake. And I don't think any one of us want to make a park a prison or anything, but I think we have to look beyond what we currently have. And if there is something that can prevent something, it doesn't have to be just security of breaking into cars. It's also, we're in a different age. We have a lot more violent crime than we've ever had before. Who would ever thought we'd have some of the things we've seen that keep repeating itself? So what my suggestion is think about adding some money towards it for later. You don't have to spend it, but at least you have it in the budget. And that's the thought process of it. You don't have to spend it. Go through that step process, but come mid-year, you've got an option. You can amend the budget if you'd like to. Be available to get that. And sometimes, whether it's the police or another part, need that third party opinion to justify big changes. And I'm okay with big changes because we have the resources for it. So that's that. And in that same spirit, just piggyback on it, is the signage will help, and they all go hand in hand. So some kind of Wayfair signing within the park, I think it's time to update it. And that's just kind of across the board, and that's conversation with Brianne. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think wayfinding signage has been on our list for, in future capital improvement projects, and I definitely think a lot of our parks could use updated signage on where to find things, how to get around the parks. Some of the signs we drove through Sugar Sand today, and a lot of the signs there they're weathered, they're fading, they're getting older. So wayfinding signage, I think, is good. I think a lot of parks, this is where you are in the park, here's where all these other elements, we don't have a lot of those in our parks, and that's helpful. So that's definitely something that we could invest in for our parks. We can add a budget line for that.
One of the things that I've observed in some of the areas where walking around the park from the library through there. And I think I've mentioned this before, there's an area of that loop that I won't go in any longer because I feel like it's very insecure.
Yeah.
If you come out across the bridge, go to your right and then go back in the woods there. It's a nice little walk, but I told my wife I don't want her taking that direction anymore, because if you got in trouble back there, there's no way that you can get any assistance. And I know at FAU, I've seen these areas where you can call for help. You know, there's a stanchion there with a little blue light on the top of it. And if we're gonna do anything, you might want to have one of those around in certain strategic areas in the park. Because there are times when the park is not lit and people are, you know, when teams leave the field, the park is still open until 10 or 11, I'm not sure what time. And then there may be areas in there that have been, where the lights have been turned off, and it's, I'd be interested in knowing what it would cost to put a couple of those signaling devices that would signal the police. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be just for, you know, an attack by someone. It could be something that's an emergency signal that could get help a lot faster than what we currently have. Might be something that you might want to just explore that would certainly enhance the security. And I appreciate Greg's listening in. You know, it was not meant as a criticism so much as it was just some helpful information that they can use in protecting our park a little bit.
I'll look at that. So are we in agreement to add, do you want to allocate a line item now to security in the parks and wayfinding signage, or do you want to, are you looking at us to come back with projects throughout the year to take it out of reserves?
I don't know that we need to have a kitchen list of things that we want rather than just having a reserve. We have reserves. If we need to modify, amend our budget, we can certainly do that. Am I not correct, Jay?
That's good. Excuse me, but can be amended anytime during the fiscal year or up to 60 days following the fiscal year.
So I mean, I'd be comfortable with that rather than just trying to pick these favorite topics that we want to allocate for, because as we talk about this and develop it more, you know, we certainly could amend our budget if we felt like it was necessary to plug in some areas that where there was a security lapse.
Are there any more topics that wanted to be discussed on?
I just want to say that I'm not sure who was responsible, but the budgeting process seems to be a lot smoother this year than ever in the past. And it may be, I'll give credit to our executive director and our current chairperson for doing a good job. And also, I think the city was very helpful this year.
Yeah, Greg wrangled everybody together for a couple of meetings, which was really helpful.
You know, I think, you know, Greg has a sense for who we are and what we do, and is sensitive to our physical needs. And I'm just really happy with the way the budget came together this year.
Same.
Thank you.
Okay, so what steps do we take at this point?
The only thing I have to change on this budget as it was presented tonight is to update the lower wing cover to just shade structure, to general shade structure line, and then we'll be ready to go for our budget. Thank you all.
Okay, so we'll go on to approval of payroll and invoices.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation for approval of payroll invoices in the amount of $113,409.43.
Second.
Joanne? Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Rizzo?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Robinson? Yes. Commissioner White? Yes. Motion passes. Any special items?
And a few things. we're working on the work order for the Sugar Sand Park roof, which is one of our items that we budgeted for next year. The roof has several different components to it, so some of it is tile. And what we're going to do, we've talked to municipal services, we've talked to rec services, and those tile areas can be made into the metal, which is also part of the roofing. So we're gonna go ahead and it's inclusive of the numbers we already had budgeted for it. So when we bring that back before you, you'll see that there's no more tile on in the renovations. There won't be tile on the Sugar Sand roof anymore. That'll also make it easier for us to attach solar panels in the future if that's something that we wanted to do down the road. So that's just a change that you'll see when that comes forward. I wanted to update everybody on the tree trimming at Boca Chica was initiated in June. This is to clean up the low hanging branches as part of the RFP that we put out. So they're going to be back and finishing up through this week and next week. And then Melissa's going to do a walkthrough after that with myself and make sure we have all the trees cleaned up out there again. I also met with Greg and Tiffany and their staff to talk about the school district islands. Actually, I just met with Greg and Tiffany on this, and they had all the notes. And we went through the school district islands that we discussed at the last meeting, made notes on them. So I'm incorporating all of our notes and discussion points, and then I'm going to pass it over to Jacob, hopefully by Wednesday or Thursday, to review the legal side of it. We'll get input from everybody here and hopefully get that wrapped up for the start of next year. And then a friendly reminder that we have this Berkeley Park contest, which Mrs. Chappie was helpful enough to plug for us to their email group. So you can vote every day. If you have multiple email addresses, you can use all your email addresses to vote. It's a great way to exercise voting. We're in an election cycle, so this is a way to practice voting for something important. Help us win $75,000 for Ocean Strand. You'll see the flyers out there. Tell your friends, tell your family, we get all the votes we can get. And then future agenda items, we have the insurance RFP, the YMCA amendment. We're just working through some exhibits, and we should have that for the next meeting. And then I have one more thing, the school district islands I talked about. So that's it.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Cap.
No, we were working with Brianna on a number of the items that she just mentioned, but we have nothing aside from that to report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Susie,
I was just going to remind everybody to vote for the Ocean Strand and also to vote for in the primary. So it's our responsibility.
yeah, Bob.
The only thing I just heard this last time I chaired the meeting, and it was I was a little rusty, Aaron, but you know, the community lost a really good leader in Susan Welch, who passed away last week in her service. I was out of town, was unable to attend it, but during the time that I interfaced with Susan on recreation needs, she was all about recreation. In fact, her kids, you know, played in our programs around town, and it's awfully sad to see a person who's so vibrant, so energetic, have the issues with Alzheimer's. And I think we, you know, I don't think we'll ever cure the disease, and maybe we can slow it down, but certainly it's painful watching somebody pass away with that and just drop into a dark hole. Susan did so much for this community, and I think that the governor and the city had flags flying half-mast in her honor during their service. So we lost a very valuable and very good steward of the community.
Well said. I agree.
I just want to pick up on what Robert said. There is coming up, and I can't give you the exact date, but you go to the website, to Walk for Alzheimer's. They have an annual walk. It's a fundraiser, and it's a great, excuse me, it's a great event. And having had family members who have suffered through it, it's something that we really need to do the best we can to ameliorate the effects of the disease. So, I share Bob's feelings about Mayor Welchel, and that's all I got.
Okay, any future agenda items you already discussed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Move to adjourn.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Commissioner Eagle,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsong,
Pretty exciting.
Yes.
huh?
and Commissioner White. Yes.
Did you picture him? The budget, everybody voted against. It's in?
It's under construction.
Yes. Oh, great.
Yeah. But the directional lines drill or.
Together.